currently is about $700 million, and it is no secret that, yes, we are bored. But what I found are interesting theories that we're not looking at a descending triangle in here, that we're still looking at a more or less symmetrical triangle, which would indicate definitely a way more bullish scenario, because we came in this symmetrical triangle bullish in here. We have the consolidation phase going on with volume going down. We have been talking about this quite a bit already right now. Now we're doing a poll. What do you guys think? For all those people who are doing chart analysis, for those people who are looking at the daily chart in here or even the weekly chart, are we in a descending or in a symmetrical triangle? The poll is popping up. Symmetrical triangle and only now. It is hard to tell, and technical analysis is very subjective. Of course, we cannot just say it has to be this, it has to be that. It really depends what points you are actually connecting. So yeah, I'm very interested what the community thinks right now. I have to say I analyzed this, and I would say that I can make arguments for both in here. What we know is that we are in a consolidation phase. Volume is going down, less and less people are interested, so that is the current situation. So for me personally, I still expect more sideways movement, and then we're gonna see a massive breakout either this month or next month. But if I had to guess, I would say that this month we're already going to see a big breakout. So don't forget the poll. But now let's jump into the actual topic of today. And it is this interview from CNBC. Full credits to them. Link also down below for those who want to watch the whole interview. Obviously, it was not all about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but he was getting asked Jay Clayton, which is the chairman of the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission from the United States. So the man in charge pretty much, but obviously he's not doing those decisions himself. And he says very interesting things about a Bitcoin ETF when he's getting asked. And it really looks like that, yes, there is absolutely no doubt that a Bitcoin ETF will exist at some point in time. But it is the same with the CFTC regulated Bitcoin-backed futures, which will launch for the first time on the 23rd of this month. So in 13 days, in 2 weeks, there will be officially Bitcoin settled futures available for the public, traded on regular exchanges. I think the New York Stock Exchange will be the first one. We're waiting for these products for more than a year right now, and it always looked like that they are just around the corner. Now we know better. All those people who were staying in here and all those people who remember how many times we have already been talking about this, well, at least we're gonna get the Bitcoin settled futures in 2 weeks, which is actually quite big. And here he's talking very positively about the Bitcoin settled ETFs, which are a bigger deal from what I figured. But now let's listen what he has to say.
Are we any closer, or have the people involved in the Bitcoin businesses in any way come closer to satisfying your concerns?
The short answer is yes, but there's work left to be done. Those were not trivial questions. How do we know that we can custody and have a hold of these crypto assets? That's a key question. And an even harder question, given that they trade on largely unregulated exchanges, is how can we be sure that those prices aren't subject to significant manipulation? Now, progress is being made, but people needed to answer those hard questions for us to be comfortable that this was the appropriate type of product.
So the short answer in here is yes, there will be a Bitcoin ETF at some point in time, but they're still concerned about custody, because if Bitcoin are gone, then they are gone. How are you going to manage an insurance fund, for example? Maybe they should ask BitMEX about that, because they still have more than 30,000 Bitcoin in their insurance fund. We're going to talk about that in a second as well. And also, what about price manipulation, about the unregulated exchanges, about their exchanges with not that much volume, but there is price discovery on those exchanges? It sounds a little bit like what was first, the egg or the chicken. You can see the dilemma in there. I mean, obviously what he's saying makes perfect sense. Back in the day, I was like, hey, this is not really a big deal, or this is just an excuse pretty much to not launch a Bitcoin ETF. But the more I'm actually into those discussions, the more I actually figure, hey, custody is really a problem. Price discovery, I'm not so sure about that, because at the end of the day, even with manipulation, people decide what one Bitcoin is worth. But I understand the concerns. If you think about all these Darth Maul candles we have already seen on exchanges, well, yeah, I totally understand that they don't want to launch a product with such a volatile asset which can be manipulated that easily. But overall, definitely very bullish. Now let's move on. Well, a news which is not so bullish in the Bitcoin ETF department is the VanEck launch of their limited Bitcoin ETF. They tried to sneak around regulation and launched a limited ETF, which is more like a trust, like the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which already exists for more than 6 years, and their launch was absolutely terrible. Only $41,000 US in the first week. So yeah, going that sideways path and basically try to move around regulation does not really work all too good. I mean, it was kind of obvious. I mean, real investors, real institutional investors are not going to bite on this, obviously, and we have proof for that right now. So in my opinion, this was not really the right route to take, and we're still waiting for a real Bitcoin settled ETF, and this was not it. Now, the big question, why do we even wait for a Bitcoin settled ETF, and what can it do to the market? And for that, we're going to have a look at gold. And if we look at this chart in here, well, gold from its first ETF, the first gold ETF ever, was launched here by the end of March in 2003, and afterwards the price of gold was literally just going up. Of course, that does not have to happen with Bitcoin as well, but I mean, this looks actually quite bullish if you ask me. At the very top, we were up over 500% from the date when the first gold ETF launched, and today we're still up more than 300%, actually 390% almost, since the first gold ETF launched. But if you're going to tell me that a Bitcoin ETF doesn't matter at all, well, this chart definitely tells us something different. Alright, and when we're already talking about institutional investors and their vehicles, Bakkt posted this on Twitter: Bitcoin deposited at our warehouse is protected by a $125 million US insurance policy. That is actually quite interesting, but they're always comparing regulated with unregulated exchanges and why regulated exchanges are so much better and so on. But just let me tell you this, BitMEX is an unregulated exchange, at least in the United States, okay? And BitMEX has an insurance fund of 31,309 BTC currently. That is 3 times as much as Bakkt has an insurance policy in US dollars. So what I'm trying to say in here is that, of course, those vehicles, they're coming right now and they're needed for institutional investors. But the Bitcoin space itself has already created products, has already created infrastructure without any help from Wall Street, pretty much. Wall Street is coming in right now. But if we just have a look at the size here of the insurance policy, well, the already established exchanges, the biggest Bitcoin exchange right now, where the most Bitcoin are getting traded, which is BitMEX right now, has already a 3 times higher insurance than Bakkt, which is coming fresh into the market. Of course, most probably in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that will be totally different. When a lot of institutional money is coming in, that insurance most probably will get raised and will be higher, but it's just interesting to see how good the infrastructure, or how big the infrastructure of Bitcoin itself, of the people or of the scene of the Bitcoin scene, is already developed compared to what's coming in right now. And once again, I mean, this VanEck Bitcoin ETF, this limited ETF in here with 41,000 in just 1 week. I mean, BitMEX is doing that most probably in 3 seconds. So just to give you a little bit of a scale of what's going on right now with institutional money coming in compared to what's already going on in the Bitcoin space itself. Quite interesting if you ask me. But that is almost it already for today. Just in case that you are interested in Bitcoin and altcoin leverage trading, video tutorial is popping up by my side right now. And don't forget, until the end of September, there is still the $110 bonus on Bybit for depositing 0.2 or more Bitcoin on the exchange. Links down below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I hopefully see all of you in the next one. Bye.
It is just a small...
In today's episode, we're going to have a look at the price of Bitcoin, which rejected at $11,000 on Friday and did not recover ever since. We're going to have a look at support levels, what to expect for the price of Bitcoin over the next coming days, but also we're going to have a look at the SP 500 because stocks seem to push for a new all-time high. But why is that, and what can we expect over there? Also in this episode, we're going to have a look at the Federal Reserve and how they are related to the stock prices. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about a trading strategy question for the next bull market that I was getting asked yesterday. So stay tuned. And now let's get started. Now, before we're going to have a look at support levels, first I want to talk about volume and the current pattern that is forming again. what we see right now is still a descending triangle. There's pretty much no doubt about it anymore. We have seen touches here on the top trend line, actually 4 touches right now, and it's quite interesting how perfect the price actually rejected over here for those people who still believe that technical analysis does not work. Of course, sometimes you're going to be wrong with technical analysis predictions or predictions based on technical analysis. That is just normal because it's just about probabilities and it's no exact science. Because if it would be exact science, there would be one book with some rules and then you could just trade based on those rules. But that's not how it is. You have to see technical analysis more as an art than an exact science. But this in here, I mean, if we zoom in a little bit, is once again pretty much proof, at least to me, that, well, there is something, or there is at least something about technical analysis. Because I did not change this line, and how perfectly rejected the price of Bitcoin got from this downtrend line, well, yeah, it is up to you what to believe. Back on the daily, I still believe, although descending triangles have a higher probability to break to the downside, that this is kind of a 50-50 in here, because we were coming bullish into this descending triangle in here, and overall I still believe that the bull market already started. This is just a very long briefer. I do not really believe in those theories that over summer people were in holidays and it's all gonna start again in fall and winter because people care more about their investments. I think people care about their investments through all the year, and I do not really think that Bitcoin is all too seasonal. Also, Bitcoin does not really care about, you know, like when regular markets are closed or not. Bitcoin is 24/7, 365 days a year, so I personally do not really believe in tax season and Chinese New Year and all those events people are making up for the price of Bitcoin. Also Backed, which will launch publicly on the 23rd of this month, which is not too far away anymore, well, I would say most of it is already priced in, or we're just going to see a midterm or even long-term effect of that. So overall, well, once again, it is not clear where Bitcoin is going from now, but what we're going to have a look at right now is if Bitcoin falls further, as we've seen it right now, where are support levels and maybe where I'm planning to go long again after a reversal. Very important, how I'm trading right now is I'm not catching a falling knife. I'm only going long after reversals, and the last time I did that was from this area over here. I closed half of my position over here and the rest got stopped out at approximately this level. So I'm super happy. Of course I want to have a position when we're really going parabolic, but we're going to talk about that at the end of the video. Now let's have a look at the support levels. Well, since we're currently trading just a little bit above $10,000, definitely $10,000 itself serves as a psychological resistance. We have seen a lot going on around that level. Here, approximately $10,000, I mark it with this line, and you can clearly see there was a lot of trading action going on around that level, and that is exactly where we are right now, pretty much. So the next level would be this bottom line here of the descending triangle, which would be at approximately $9,300. We do not really see that on the volume profile all too much, but here this pattern served as a perfect guidance so far over the last 1 month, so I'm definitely looking at the $9,300 level. Then we have a little bit support over here at approximately 8,800, 8,700, but I do not really rate that all too high. But what we have is still this area over here, which is getting very, very interesting. If we fall back down to those levels, that would be at approximately $8,000, actually a little bit lower. If we fall back down here, I personally expect massive support in that area. If we break through this trading area over here where Bitcoin was getting traded a lot, well, then it does not look all too great, and then we actually have to zoom out even further, and then the next levels would be in the $5,000 range over here, and obviously that would be devastating, and that could cause a lot of panic. That would be at approximately, or would start at approximately $5,200, $5,300. So what we can see here is that if we fall, then at $8,000 we should have strong resistance, okay? If we fall through that, then, well, I would say it's panic mode, and you know how people are, okay? I mean, some people, they just play cool. They talk about fundamentals. They tell you, well, Bitcoin is so great, I'm never gonna sell. But at the end of the day, when the price of Bitcoin falls from $20,000 to $3,000 on that way, what do you think? How many people were telling everyone, hey, Bitcoin is so great, I'm never gonna sell, but they sold because the price was just falling, okay? A lot of them, actually. I mean, it was even hard for me, right? I mean, I held my whole hodl stack from $20,000 to $3,000, and it was not easy, okay? And you guys know how bullish I am on Bitcoin and how familiar I am with the fundamentals and how I see the potential of Bitcoin, and it was even hard for me, okay? So I can tell you this. definitely there are not just true believers in Bitcoin in the market right now. We still have weak hands, and you could see that especially if the price of Bitcoin starts to fall heavily. I don't want to say this has to happen. Once again, I'm still looking at this descending triangle, and hopefully this descending triangle is going to hold, and we're going to bounce off of the levels over here again at approximately $9,200, $9,300. That would be absolutely amazing. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely more room to the upside as well. So time will tell, but for me personally, the most realistic move, and to give you a little bit of a prediction, what I think would be the most likely scenario is that we keep consolidating in this area, and at some point we're going to break out to the upside. Yes, I'm still leaning a little bit more to the bullish side here than to the bearish side, but you know both directions right now what's to expect. Now let's move on. Just a quick comment about the Bitcoin dominance. This is actually quite funny. I see a lot of people screaming alt season again on Twitter whenever the Bitcoin dominance just falls a little bit. But if we zoom out here a little bit on the daily chart, well, the direction is quite clear. And once again, for those people who were asking on the last live stream, what do I personally think about alt season? I do not think that alt season, a real alt season like we have seen in 2017, is very likely. And if so, not without new money. So Bitcoin has to be on new all-time highs already, and then we have to be very careful. New projects will flood the market as well, so don't expect that your altcoin is ever going to see the same Bitcoin Satoshi levels as it has in 2017. That is my personal advice. In US dollars, possible. Off their new all-time high, well, possible. But right now, I just don't see it. And if everyone starts to scream alt season again, it does not really make the situation better, even when the Bitcoin dominance goes down a little bit. But we definitely have seen some gains over the last couple of days for altcoins. We can say that for sure. All right, now let's move on to the next topic, the S&P 500, US equities. What is going on over here? Why is the price going up again? Weren't we saying that there's a recession around the corner? Well, it still is. But it looks like, believe it or not, that the Fed is actually going to cut interest rates again, and probably they're going to announce it on the 17th or 18th of this month. So what does that exactly mean? Well, basically it just means more cheap money. And if there's more cheap money, where does that money go? Well, it can actually go into stocks. There is no doubt that a recession is around the corner, but what does that mean? Well, once again, I personally predicted that we're going to start the downfall of the US economy, or the global economy in general, in 2020. Don't let you mislead by Mr. President. I mean, I'm not against Mr. Trump, I'm not for Mr. Trump. I'm not really politically engaged or anything. I personally do not really care. But if Mr. Trump is telling you that the US economy is doing great, well, that is just not true. And you cannot just see that in certain supply chains, you can also just see that once again in the inverted yield curve, how scared investors already are that they're fleeing into long-term bonds. I mean, long-term bonds are paying less interest rates right now than short-term bonds. Here you can see the yield spread between the 10-year and the 1-year spread. Now, why is that? Well, it is actually quite simple. People are so scared about traditional investments, they have to flee into long-term bonds because they think their investments are the safest over there in treasury bonds, long-term treasury bonds, so the rates are actually going down. So they're parking their money even with taking a loss. Just think about what that means, how those people with a lot of money are actually scared about the current situation. And also, it's quite obvious whenever this happened. Well, here it was back in 2006 before a financial crisis. Here it was back in 2000 before a financial crisis. Here it was in 1989 before a financial crisis. So those numbers, or this chart in here, always told pretty much exactly when it's about time for a recession, and this time it will be no better. And for those people who still believe that everything is alright, just have a look at the US national debt clause. We're talking about 22.5 trillion US dollars in debt. And such a bubble sometimes just has to deload. That's just how it is. That's how our economy works. And the Fed lowering interest rates, well, that basically does not make the situation better long term. It makes the situation better for now. More cheap money. Stocks can get pumped even to new all-time highs. I'm not the guy saying that stocks will never see new all-time highs. This looks actually very bullish. And if we see an interest rate cut, well, I would say that is very likely that over the next 1, 2, or 3 months, we're actually going to see new all-time highs in US equities. It is a little bit sad, and I personally would not invest because at some point this whole thing is going to deload. That's just how it is. But yeah, Here it is up to you what to decide. Alright, now let's talk about trading a little bit. I was getting an interesting question yesterday about how I'm playing the market, or if it is smart to invest 5% of your Bitcoin portfolio in a long position, and what's exactly going to happen with the funding rates. Let me make that quite clear. If you're interested in taking a long into the next parabolic phase, you will make gains if you're going to be successful. But if there are more longs than shorts, then longs are paying the shorts with funding. That gives an incentive for people to go short, otherwise not both sides would be covered. So if there are more longs than shorts, longs are paying the shorts. If there are more shorts than longs, shorts are paying the longs. So on the way up, when everyone is getting bullish and there are clearly more longs, well, you always have to pay funding. At the end of the day, if you can really take your trade into the next parabolic phase, you will still make plenty of gains, but just be aware of that. The other risk is if you have 5% or even 10% of your portfolio on an exchange, well, that part of your portfolio obviously has a way higher risk exposure because it's on an exchange, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. So I'm personally trying to do that. I mean, I currently have no position on BitMEX. The last one was very profitable. I closed, as I already said, half of it at $11,000, and the other half got stopped out in quite nice profits as well. I have my position on Bybit in here with a stop loss at $9,090. I think it is very likely that this position could be taken to the next parabolic phase in here. I'm not so sure if we're ever going to see $9,000 again, but I don't know, right? So if you're trying to do that, then rather go in with a little bit of a higher stack, but with a lower leverage, okay? Because those high leverage trades I'm doing on BitMEX currently, I mean, on BitMEX I'm doing 10x, 25x, not 50x anymore because of the low volume we see right now, but 10x, 25x, those are the leverages I'm playing with. So obviously I have to have my stop losses closer. So this is not really the right leverage for a potential trade into the next bull market or into the next parabolic phase, but here a 5x leverage. So yeah, those are my thoughts in here. Yes, of course, it would be the dream to take one of those positions from those low levels where we are right now into new all-time highs. That would be the absolute dream. I mean, I took one trade from $5,000 to approximately $9,000 or something like that, made like 2 Bitcoin. It was the absolute dream, right? So yeah, those trades, they can actually happen and they can play out well, even with the funding which is going against you when everyone is just going long. So those are my thoughts in here. Currently no position open on BitMEX. I'm waiting for the next entry point, as I already mentioned, and here on Bybit I still have the one which is open since the end of July. I believe it was somewhere over here, 20th of July, and yeah, most of the time it was underwater, but I just leave this position open. Fingers crossed that we're not going to see the $9,000 level again. But that is it already for today. And if you guys are interested in leverage trading, don't know where to start, videos popping up by my side right now, tutorials, playlists about trading and so on. And don't forget, there is still until the end of September the $110 bonus going on for a deposit of 0.2 or more Bitcoin on Bybit. Make sure to take advantage of that with my referral link down below. Thank you guys very much for the support, and trade responsibly. See you guys in the next one. Bye. September the 6th, 2019. Over 94,000 Bitcoins, currently worth over $1 billion US, have just been moved to an unknown wallet, possibly associated with Bakkt. And with that said, welcome everyone to another episode. Today we have very interesting topics. As always, we're gonna start with some technical analysis on the price of Bitcoin and have a look at the current situation. Of course, we're going to talk about the 94,000 Bitcoins that have been moved a couple hours ago. Maybe this is related to Bakkt. And last but not least, we're talking about the parabolic growth of this Google Trends chart for BTC and what this is all about. And now let's get right into it. So for some people out there, this maybe comes a little bit surprising, but the price of Bitcoin did not reject directly in here. If we go on a lower time frame than the daily, we can even see that it looks like that this growth we have seen lately over the last couple days is actually about to continue. Not that many people were believing in that, and I have to say, well, I personally thought we're gonna see more room to the downside again, because for me personally, this in here was already a test of this trend line. But it looks good right now, and I take it how it is. But we have to be clear here. The the price of Bitcoin did not break out yet. So for those people out there who are desperately waiting for a long entry, well, I would still wait personally until we clearly break out this trend line. And of course, it would be even better if we zoom out in here a little bit more. Well, I mean, I'm definitely getting more bullish if we take out those highs over here and then move into the direction of possibly even new all-time highs. That would be absolutely amazing. And just the fact that I'm talking about new all-time highs, if you think about it, we do not have a lot of resistance above of us if we start to finally break out. But we have not been breaking out yet. That has to be clear. Also something which is very concerning once again, and I know I've saying this a lot, but it just has to be pointed out. Even though we see a nice pump, we're only on a little bit above 800 million US dollars trading volume on 10 real exchanges. That is really not all too much, and it would not take a lot to send the price of the Bitcoin back down again. We are still in the consolidation phase, still very likely that we're going to see more sideways action in here. Definitely more bullish the last couple days than bearish, that's for sure, but once again, we're not out of the woods yet. We're still clearly in this descending triangle, and as long we are, we cannot really lean more to the bullish side. Right now, it's still more or less a 50-50. Maybe I'm a little bit more bullish, but that's just because I'm a moon boy. But now we're talking about something very interesting. Probably the most interesting topic of today. You probably already heard that on the 6th of September 2019, which is today, Bakkt will start to offer Bitcoin custody. And exactly on this day, 1 billion US dollars worth of Bitcoin are getting moved around. Is that just a coincidence, or is there really a lot going on with Bakkt and they're really preparing because they know there will be high demand? Let's get into this article. More than half of the sent BTC, 56%, came from just one address. Another 42% came from 3 other addresses. The transaction fee cost approximately $700, meaning just 0.00007% of the total amount. Maybe Bitcoin right now is not a good medium of exchange for microtransactions, but hey, $700 for a 1 billion US dollar transaction in 1 hour, if you calculate in approximately 6 confirmations, well, it's up to you to decide, but for me, that's actually a great medium of exchange. Just for larger amounts, obviously, right now. Alright, now let's talk about the second interesting topic of today. And I know today we have very interesting topics compared to other days. And this is something we have already been talking about on a live stream, but the reason I bring it up again is this should serve as a lesson right now. Whenever you analyze statistics, whenever you analyze charts, you have to be 100% clear about what you're actually looking at. And Forbes is not doing a good job. I thought that Forbes is very reputable and they know what's going on, but after reading this article in here, I have my doubts. So what they're talking about in here is the Bitcoin and BTC search term on Google Trends. And as you can see here, BTC, the red one here on the 12-month chart, is going completely parabolic, but Bitcoin itself, not really, but nevertheless, they're talking about Bitcoin in here. But this has absolutely nothing to do with Bitcoin, so don't get confused. No, there are not apparently people coming out of nowhere Googling for BTC because they're interested in buying Bitcoin because of Bakkt or anything like that. We have to be 100% clear about that. And once again, I was already talking about that on the live stream, and we did a little bit of research, and what we figured is, hey, wait a second. We have the Hurricane Dorian going on right now, and it was going over the Bahamas. And in the Bahamas, there is a telecommunication company with the name BTC, namely here BTC Bahamas. So most probably there was no internet connection or no phone connection because of the hurricane, and then people over there were looking up Bitcoin, or BTC rather, not Bitcoin but BTC, because of their telecommunication company. So what we have seen a couple days ago is there was the highest interest in here from the Bahamas, which is not visible anymore right now, but 99% sure that this is actually related to the Hurricane Dorian and has nothing to do with Bitcoin itself. Otherwise, the search term Bitcoin would be up as well and not just BTC. So what I'm trying to say in here is that once again, and this should serve as a lesson, when you're looking at some charts and they're showing you something where you think, well, this cannot really be true, there is something weird about it, make sure that you do proper research and you do not just believe in the numbers that you see at the very beginning, okay? Always think twice before you believe something, and think even more than twice before you do an action, go long or short or whatever, when you're looking at such charts. Always be 100% sure what's actually happening, or at least 99%. Alright, and since we already have such a good day and it's a Friday, I have some more bullish information for you, which is something we flippening we care. Bitcoin at only 189 billions and gold at 7.8 trillion. Once again, a visualization of how small the cryptocurrency market cap is here compared to the stock market, for example, to real estate, to all the money in the world, physical money, narrow money, and also the global debt in here of approximately 250 trillion US dollars, and the United States, well, it's already higher than 21 trillions. But just to give you a little bit of a visualization, once again, yes, there is a lot of money out there which can flow into Bitcoin. So don't worry, all our bags will eventually get pumped. The big questions are just, are you strong enough to hodl until then? And the second, well, what you are going to do with it. But that is almost it already for today. Just as a quick reminder, until the end of September, you can get the $110 trading bonus on Bybit for depositing 0.2 Bitcoin or more. If you're interested in leverage trading, videos popping up by my side, also a playlist how to get started with technical analysis, trading strategies, and so on. Make sure to check them out, and I hopefully see all of you in the next one. Bye.
Right, welcome back everybody to Altcoin Daily. Of course, you subscribe for our daily videos on everything going on with Bitcoin, crypto, the whole market. I am very bullish on the long-term future of Bitcoin. I've made no secret about that. I mean, on this channel, I try and show you strong fundamental indicators, the green flags that to me suggest Bitcoin has a lot of room to grow. And one such strong fundamental that we're going to focus on today is the hash rate. So